Launching and leading, that's what we do. Impacting communities, changing the world, increasing profits. You're a powerhouse girl. We're women who launch and lead.
You are listening to Women Who Launch and Lead, the podcast for women ready to change the world by women who are changing the world. Listen in each week on iTunes, Google, Spotify, Breaker, or Stitcher as we connect with women making it happen in life, business, and career. Relate to their struggles, learn their strategies, and celebrate their successes. Then show your love by subscribing and leaving a review. Now, here's your host, Dr. Sharita Weatherspoon.
Hello, this is Dr. Sharita Weatherspoon, and we are here today with Cassandra Hill, who is a wellness coach and owner of Holistic Living Consulting, where she empowers women to physical and emotional wellness. So thank you, Cassandra, so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
I am doing great. Thanks so much for having me on, Dr. Sharita.
I want to ask you first, to just share more about what exactly you do in the world and how you are impacting the world. And then I want to dive into, given the work that you do, what advice you would give to women about self-care during, critical or crisis times. So first, just tell us about who you are and what you do and how you're impacting the world.
Sure. As you mentioned, my name's Cassandra Hill. I've been a wellness coach. Honestly, this is my second year as a wellness coach, so I'm fairly new. Prior to this, I worked as a gerontologist, and that's a long way of saying that I specialize in the study of aging. And so learning how the aging process works, things we can do to be proactive in aging instead of being reactive. That was my specialty, or still is my specialty, for a little over a decade. Within that, because I still do work as a gerontologist, I do offer consulting to senior care facilities and help them stay in compliance for surveys, and that's really rewarding, and I love that, and it still gives me that opportunity to impact the lives of older adults, which is one of my passions. The wellness coach part of me honestly ties into self-care. My journey as a wellness coach, I was diagnosed with systemic lupus in 2014. At that time, I started traditional treatment. I was doing chemo, drugs for that, and also doing various steroids. Most people know chemo is exhausting, physically, emotionally, mentally. And so with that, I had to stop working. I couldn't do that and work a job. So I was at home all day and depressed and sad, and like my career, I spent all these years in college and got a master's degree to sit at home and do nothing. Um, And so in that time, I decided that there has to be a better way. There has to be another option. And so when my thought process changed, my life started changing. I began taking online courses in health and wellness. The more and more I learned, I started applying to myself. And little by little, I was feeling better. And I thought, okay, I'm happy I'm feeling better. And eventually, I had the regimen that put me in remission. I went to the doctor just for a normal checkup, and most people with an autoimmune disease are familiar with what's called an ANA test, an or autonuclear antibody test. And so that test normally is positive for people with all types of autoimmune disease, not just systemic lupus, but other autoimmune conditions as well. So I went to the doctor and all my lab work was negative. And I was like, wow, I knew I was feeling better, but I didn't think it was this much better. And that was 4 years ago. And so initially, I was so excited that, wow, I'm well. And I was in so many groups on Facebook for lupus patients, or lupies is what we call ourselves. And so I was just sharing with other group members, this is what I did, give it a try. And really hadn't thought of turning it into a business. Honestly, that's why the importance of community is really important. Other women in my circle of influence was like, Cassandra, why would you not make a business of this? You know, this is valuable. And so I thought, well, as a business, I will be able to impact more people with the right platform. And so that's how holistic living consulting became to be. My goal was to, of course, help women like me who had an autoimmune condition, and you think that wellness isn't possible. Well, yes, it is. And then also for women who haven't gotten to that point, but they realize that they're not taking care of themselves, to show that don't wait. Be proactive about your health. Learn from my mistakes. You can practice self-care and have that great career and business, and really to be effective in doing all those things, taking care of your body is not optional. That's how my business became to be. And I'm just so thankful and blessed to coach women on taking just those self-care tips. And oftentimes what I do with women, we start on the emotional, psychological aspect of it, because oftentimes our physical body is so interconnected. Well, all the time it's interconnected with how we think about ourselves emotionally, mentally. Because when I realize that my body is a temple, I won't feed it junk. I won't go to McDonald's every day. Nothing against McDonald's. Nothing against McDonald's. But I won't feed myself junk every single day. We regard other things as priceless. You know, we'll go to the Eiffel Tower and we wouldn't dare throw trash at the Eiffel Tower because it's wow, it's beautiful. Why don't we think the same thing about our bodies? So what I do for women is show them their worth, and then once they realize their worth, then we can figure out physically what your body needs to be at its best.
That's really good. You dropped a couple of gems in what you said, and you know, some relate to business and then some are more personal. And just in you telling your story, what I heard, although you didn't use these words, but this is what I heard from it, that your situation can set you up for success. So obviously you had no plans, no desire to experience what you experienced in terms of your health crisis. But that experience, your situation, then led to you starting this business where you had the opportunity to impact other women who are dealing with a similar situation, and being successful in your business and in the results that you're providing for these women. And this is something that I'm sure even with the work that you were doing was not on your radar, right? But that situation that you found yourself in led you down a different path to experience a different type of success and with a different group of people. And I think that, it's an important takeaway to point out, because we often look at, what we're going through and we just want to get through it, like we just want to get through it, but we don't necessarily look at what is happening within that situation that we can take to help propel us forward in some other way. So I think, that was, like I said, just something that stood out for me from you just telling your story. And then the other thing was about you changing your thought process about your situation and your health and wellness, and how that eventually led to your healing. So that connection between what we think and then the actions that follow that thought process and what can come out of that. So if you had not changed your thinking, if you just, was feeling sorry for yourself and just focused on, I didn't see myself here, I've got all this education I can't do anything with, I'm, just sitting at home, not doing anything, and really just being miserable because of your situation, you probably would not have experienced the healing that you did, not even through what you discovered on your own, but even through the traditional medicinal practices, because so much of what we think influences not only action, but reactions in terms of, things we may not tangibly see, but how your body is reacting to whatever medications or processes it's going through. If you're miserable, your body is not going to be primed optimally to receive whatever is coming in to help you. So I think that's why the work you're doing in terms of, dealing with the emotional piece first and how you think about yourself and valuing yourself regardless of what you're facing in the situation you're in right now, is the foundation for experiencing your physical healing. I think that is it's deep, it's great. I think it's just really an important thing, and I'm glad that out of what you said and just introducing yourself, comes this nugget for business, but then also this nugget, on the personal side of our lives as well. So thank you for that. So I we'll come back to, your strategies for self-care during times of crisis a little bit later. What I want to jump to now is about challenges that you may have faced in actually getting your business off the ground, because you were really venturing into something new. It wasn't like you had, these thoughts beforehand of, yes, I want to be a wellness coach. I want to help, people heal from these, autoimmune challenges, through non-traditional pathways. Like, you weren't thinking that.
I'm content living as a gerontologist.
Right.
Like, okay, this is my career. This is what I'll be doing, and I retire.
Yes. So once you, kind of got this, you were hearing from the other women that, you should do this as a business. And once you said, I think I'm going to try this, what challenges did you face along the pathway? You said you've been doing this for 2 years now. So, what did you deal with during that 2-year period that you had to overcome?
I'll tell anyone, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, it has its peaks, it has its valleys. And so one thing is just really being persistent, being consistent is really important. When I initially started out, of course, I had a background where I knew about business. I knew how to manage a business from my years being in management. However, managing someone else's business and managing your own business are two totally different things. And so I really had to do a lot of reading, a lot of knowledge seeking, just on laying a proper foundation for my business. What did I need? How do you go about setting up a LLC? What does that entail? What legally, there was just a learning curve for me with that. Also, um, as a small business owner, capital, for me, like I said, this is me coming off sitting at home, had lost the career. So I didn't have enough saved to just plan out, just all my marketing and advertising. And even now, I'm still not completely there yet. So it's just continual growth and knowing that I think a lot of times we look at success like, we look at someone like Oprah. Oprah didn't become Oprah overnight. It
Right.
takes time to build a platform that's gonna last, that's gonna sustain. So just really being consistent and making decisions that's based on as much information as possible. There's been times in businesses where within my business, I made a decision. And if I had a little more information, I would have done something different. So I really encourage get as much information as possible and then move ahead.
Mm-hmm. And that's good. What I want to add to that though is don't get stuck in the information gathering phase though,
Oh no.
because a lot of times we use that as an excuse not to move forward. I'm still doing my research, and I'm speaking from experience on that. I need to take another course. I need to hire another coach, and I just feel like I don't know enough to take action. But sometimes you have to be willing to risk being wrong so that you can make some progress. Because you often don't know if you don't have enough information until you've moved on the information that you have, right? So I think, yes, the information gathering is absolutely important, but for all the women listening, you got to put a deadline to that and then take action.
Smart goals, people. Smart goals. You can't say, "Oh, I'm gathering information for 6 months." No.
Exactly.
Smart goals. If you're not familiar with SMART goals, they're specific, they're measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Timely.
Yes.
So like right now, for example, I started this year knowing that I wanted digital courses available to my tribe. And so yesterday, I finished my content. So, okay, now the content's finished, then it's on to the next phase. So, you make your goals and you give yourself timelines.
Exactly. Now, you mentioned being persistent and consistent. Can you share a very specific example of when you demonstrated persistency or consistency? Kind of what did you come up against, and then how did you demonstrate that in dealing with it? Because I think, it's very easy for us to say that to someone else, but then when they're in the situation dealing with something, how do they know how to deal with it? What that persistency or consistency might actually look like in practice? Because, oftentimes we want to give up, when
Yeah.
things get hard, so can you give a specific example of something that you faced and then what you did that shows you were consistent or persistent to press through that challenge?
Sure. I'll start with even just the beginning of this year. I had a hard time reaching people on social media. And so I had a coach, or I have a coach, and my coach recommended, which I started January of this year. I started, my Facebook only had not quite 500 people. And so that's not a lot for a business.
Mm-hmm.
And so she told me, go live every day, go
Mm-hmm.
live. And so I did that every day, going live. At the time, I was still working as a substitute teacher. And so for me, working all day and then still having my business, and although I'm in remission with systemic lupus, I do have to be really careful with self-care for myself, because I do need my rest and all those things. So working every day, and getting off and doing those lives every single day. There will be times I would be so tired, didn't feel like doing it, but did it anyway. And and my page has grown so much. I've met so many incredible people, even learning about you. It was through someone else that I know through Facebook, because I am receiving more growth. And so I'll tell anyone, even when practice self-care, yes. However, there's days you're going to be tired, but you still can press through and achieve your goal. And that was something, for me, was really difficult, because I had so many other things that was going on. This is just within my business, but I had other things going on in my life, personally, that needed to be addressed. And so even with all that, still just every day doing those
Mm-hmm.
lives and reaching and touching and impacting women. And so now I'm so happy. I'm like, I'm almost at 2,000.
Okay.
you know,
Great,
you
great.
know, so persistence does pay off. My dad always tells me Rome wasn't built in a day.
Mm-hmm.
I think oftentimes, I know for me, I have a personality. I can be somewhat of a perfectionist,
Mm-hmm.
and I want everything done, you know, top notch, which
Right.
is good. However, you can't put so much on yourself that you don't celebrate your small wins, and then just keep showing up and showing up, and then those small wins eventually become the big celebrations and the big parties, where it's like, wow, look at this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here's the lesson from that for our listeners. The persistency was in continuing to go live, even though there were other things she was dealing with in life. So she didn't let life challenges stop her from showing up. And then the consistency was, really about the timing. She showed up live every day. And as a result, she's going from 500 to almost 2,000 in less than 3 months? So, because we're just
Yeah.
talking about from the
Yeah.
beginning of this year. So that is, that's a tangible, measurement of what her consistent actions led to. Okay. So I think that's one of the things that I want to be able to do with the podcast is, have our listeners be able to take away from the conversation something that they can apply to their lives and their businesses. So, it may not be social media for the, a particular woman who's listening. It may be something else. The lesson is be persistent in spite of what you're facing and be consistent. Continue to do the work and the results will follow that. Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. Now, what is one strategy, one self-care strategy that you would share with our listeners that you think is important for every woman to do, but then especially in times, that we're in now and have been going through for the past few weeks, times of crisis, even chaos where, something like self-care would just get kind of pushed to the back. What's a strategy that you would recommend we do?
Definitely. Right now, self-care definitely is a priority. It's something that is never optional, but during these times, if we don't take care of ourselves, we're not good to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I do all the time, but I recommend to everyone if you're not doing, just keeping your body alkaline as much as possible. So if you're in a community where water is available, alkaline water, whether it's core hydration, life water, um, get you some alkaline water. If the water isn't available, get it through fruits like watermelon, cantaloupe, full of water that's alkaline. Just keeping your body in that alkaline state is going to help you being resistant to bacteria as well as viruses.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
It's
great.
really important.
Yes, that's really good. And for those of you who are not familiar with the whole concept of alkalinity in the body, there's a ton of information available on Google. So go ahead, do that quick search and find out about it. Now add to that, eat as many alkaline foods as you can as well. But it's really about taking care of the inside so the outside can do what it's supposed to do.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Now you have a gift for our listeners. Tell us about what that is and how they can get it.
Sure. Everyone tuning in, feel free to go to bit.ly/health and happiness now. Once you do that, arrange a free discovery session. After your free discovery session, you'll also be gifted with something special just for you. But in your discovery session, it's free of charge, and we'll just delve and we'll uncover the layers that's hindering you from not showing up as your best self to the world.
All right, great. And you'll be able to find the link in the show notes. So we'll make sure that you have that so you can connect directly with Cassandra. Now, also, I want to make sure that for those listeners who may not ready for a discovery call now, but have been able to pull value from our conversation today and want to connect with you, where can they find you online?
Sure, you can find me online at CassandraRHill.com. That's Cassandra, CassandraRHill.com. And on my website, you will find links to my Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, all my social media. So head on over to my website, CassandraRHill.com.
All right, great. Thank you, Cassandra, for joining us. We appreciate you and all of the value that you gave our listeners today. And I wrote down a couple of notes for myself as well. Then I want to say thank you to all of our listeners. We appreciate you. Peace and blessings.
Thank you for joining us for Women Who Launch and Lead with Dr. Sharita Weatherspoon. Be sure to subscribe to the show so you don't miss an episode and leave your positive review so we can continue to bring you impactful and powerful content. Don't forget to connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at Women Who Launch and Lead. Learn more about how you can work with Dr. Sharita at SharitaWeatherspoon.com. As always, learn, launch, lead.